The Leafs beat the Canes 4-3 in overtime. Mitch Marner had a pair. So did Auston Matthews, but then he left the game with an injury and did not return. We'll chat about all that and more on today's episode of Locked On Leafs.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Leafs podcast, your one-stop shop for all things Leafs. I'm your host, Mike DiStefano from TSN 1050 Toronto Radio, also known as Al's brother from TSN's Overdrive. Get me up on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. And we have a brand new co-host to debut today. I've been teeing it up for the last week now, and finally we can announce it. If you're watching us on YouTube, which we're on YouTube now each show, so make sure that you go and subscribe to us, Locked On Leafs on YouTube for the video portion of the show. You're looking at his mug. It's Dave Morassutti. Dave, welcome to Locked On Leafs, our brand new co-host for the show. You're not new to the show. You've done a lot of guest starring, and then I just figured, you know what? Let's just have a two-person show. We can go back and forth on things. There's some days where I'm too busy where, you'll be able to pick up the slack and we'll be able to fulfill that true 5-day-a-week, podcast that we're supposed to have here on the Locked On Network. And so bringing you on, I'm happy to do it. Welcome aboard, pal.
Bringing in the dynamic duo. I love it, Mike. Thanks for the kind and loving intro.
Absolutely. And well, let's get right to it. Actually, before we do, just a reminder that this is a daily Maple Leafs centric podcast. If you're a Leaf fan, you are going to want to hear us each and every day. So you can go and download this podcast wherever you get your podcasts. It's absolutely free. You'll have new content every single day, Monday through Friday, by myself and now Dave Morassutti. Let's get right into this game, though, buddy. A big-time victory, I would say, for the Toronto Maple Leafs. They defeated the Carolina Hurricanes by a score of 4-3 in overtime. Mitch Marner scored the game-tying goal midway through the third period. They got the game winner as well in overtime, ended up scoring for an 8th straight game, which is wild, and somehow that's not the story of the game. Unfortunately, the biggest story of the game is the fact that Auston Matthews left tonight's game with a head injury. He did not return late in the period. Literally the final minute of the third period, he kind of took a spill. He was going into a battling for a puck and took a spill and took a knee to the back of the head and then was down for quite some time, a couple of minutes, and then did get kind of help. He did skate off by himself to the dressing room. He did not return for the overtime period. And Coach Sheldon Keefe, after the game, says that he had a scheduled off day tomorrow anyways, but he will be reevaluated, and we should hear more about his status on Wednesday. But that is not what you want to see if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs. Literally, the last thing you wanted to see was Auston Matthews going into being pulled by concussion spotters and having to go into protocol to, I guess do an exam on him and make sure that everything's okay, which obviously we're hoping for, but that is not a positive outcome on a night where you are still able to get a big win, but a negative storyline that we got to kind of start with here.
It just seems like Auston Matthews has the worst luck, because when he starts getting hot and he's bound to set some sort of crazy record or scoring streak, he gets injured, and not even to his fault. Like literally falling down and he gets hit in the back of the head. Like that, those are the worst ones when it's accidental. You don't see it coming because it catches you off guard. And
Yeah, it was almost not exactly like it, but it was kind of similar to Tavares when he got clipped in the head, where it was just kind of a play where you weren't expecting it, and then all of a sudden a guy takes a spill, and then a player's just skating by and you clips him in the back of the head. Now, luckily, Tavares's injury was a lot worse, so it seemed, at least, because we all witnessed and saw what happened to JT out there on the ice. Matthews, he stayed down, but he did skate off, which is a good sign. But ultimately, yeah, this is not well. First and foremost, you never want to see that. Like head injuries are always tough to kind of digest, and he's had a concussion before, has he not? If I'm not mistaken, I believe he's missed time before in his career with a concussion.
Yeah.
So if this in fact is the case, and again, we don't want to speculate, I suppose, or we shouldn't speculate. So I don't know if that is the case. Could have just been shaken up, and this was all precautionary. It's kind of hold him out as they took a look. Hopefully, there's nothing wrong. But yeah, hoping nothing but the best for Auston Matthews. And I mean, as an on ice outlook, no Auston Matthews is a tough thing for the Maple Leafs here with a lot of games to go coming up in the month of February.
Yeah, I mean that's really it, right? You never want to lose your best player, and it's always about timing too, right? You lose him now, and you hope that if it's not serious, then maybe he misses the next game or whatever. But you're really trying to get your whole lineup together healthy, and right now you're trying to decide what this team is ahead of the trade deadline, and it doesn't help that your best player isn't out there, right? It's hard to gauge everything when you don't have your healthy lineup altogether.
Well, did you hear Kyle Dubas over the weekend on Sunday talk about how he finally has his team relatively healthy? I think we're still waiting on Jake Muzzin, who didn't play tonight. But outside of that, this is pretty much the whole team that they envisioned as a whole, playing as a unit.
Mm.
And, he says, I want to get a good look at what they look like. And now, literally the very next day, Auston Matthews leaves the game with a head injury. And hopefully he's not out long term. But that's just a jinx, is it not? Like, is that
It is
not somewhat of a jinx
that
for Dubas?
I was thinking the exact same thing when it happened, and I watched that press conference and just
Like, when
like,
he said that, I was like, Kyle, why would you say that? Now you know that someone's gonna get hurt. I didn't know it was gonna be Austin, but you just knew that there's no way that the hockey gods were gonna let this guy see the team as originally constructed without any type of impediments such as this.
yeah, that's the tough part. And hopefully, I mean, it could be a whiplash thing, could be concussion. We just don't know. Jake Muzzin, we didn't expect him to be out for this long. We didn't even know he had a concussion, and he didn't even know he had a concussion until a few days later. So that's the tricky part with head injuries and things like that. So hopefully it's not too serious. But yeah, like when Kyle Dubas said that, I'm like, you're never gonna have your team exactly as constructed with the way this season has gone with COVID, with injuries. But when he said, I'm like, man, it's almost like bad omen. You're tempting the hockey gods when you say stuff like that.
That's exactly what happened. All right, why don't we get into this game a little bit more? But first, why don't we hear from today's first show sponsor?
Mike, how's your beard treating you?
That's okay. I
Yeah.
could probably use a little bit of work. Why? Why do you ask?
I mean, I tend to get a little itchiness here and there, but if you have someone that you care about that has a beard, they need to get Primal. So maybe you're that guy who's never considered the benefits of treating your beard with product, but Primal Origin Oils will stop the itch and make your beard look healthy and groomed. And we all know itching beards are the worst.
They suck.
I always deal with those. So what is Primal Origin Oils? Well, they make balms, oils, and whipped butter. They're renowned as the best in beard products available. Now you may think everybody claims to have the best thing for your beard. But we know that with Primal Origin Oils challenges you to compare their ingredients and the field and beard to the other products you've used. We promise you'll see and feel the difference. Remember, the code locked on gets you that 20%. Not many places will give you that 20% off. But if you go and use the code locked on, you'll get 20% off at primaloriginoils.com. So use the locked on to get 20% off. And you know what? My beard, especially in the wintertime, needs a little bit of that work. So maybe I might have to give Primal Origin Oils a little bit of a try there and get that 20% off.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I think I should probably do it myself. It gets a little bit itchy in the winters, right? The cold on the skin, and
Especially now we're on YouTube, man. We got to keep up the appearances.
that's it. That's it, dude. Now that we're on YouTube, and a reminder that you can find Locked On Leafs on YouTube Monday to Friday. New episodes coming out with myself, Mike DiStefano, along with David Morassutti. And thanks again for making Locked On Leafs your first listen every day. And hey, make sure to check out Olympic Hockey Daily presented by Locked On NHL. It's a bonus podcast covering all the action in Beijing. You can find it on the Locked On NHL podcast feed. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Dave. Let's get into the game here and talk about some of the goods, I guess, that happened in the game. We talked about the bad already with the Auston Matthews injury, but this was a 4-3 overtime victory against one of the best teams in the league, the Carolina Hurricanes. Right, they're the division leaders out in the Metro, and earlier this season they kind of laid a beatdown, a spanking, if you will, on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Not this time around. Toronto hanging in, doing a lot better, and ended up getting the victory. This was really going to be a revenge of the goaltenders type of game. You had Frederik Andersen returning to Toronto for the first time, and then you also had Petr Mrazek getting to play Carolina for the first time. These two goaltenders switched in the offseason, and they got to go mano a mano, head to head, one on one, and Petr Mrazek comes up victorious tonight. What did you think of his game?
I thought he was very crucial early on because the Leafs came out kind of sluggish. They had such a hard time with transitions, getting the puck into the Carolina zone, which is kind of their MO. They don't like to allow opposing teams to get into the zone. Frederik Andersen was solid in the chances he was getting thrown his way early on. So I thought, honestly, in that, for the most part, like that might have been one of Mrazek's best games and most important games as a Leaf because a good team. This was a scheduled start for him, and the Leafs need these types of performances from Petr Mrazek now and down the stretch run.
Yeah, I completely agree. This is certainly his best. I think it was his best performance as a Leaf. I feel comfortable in saying that. He wasn't really tested in the game against the Islanders, which you could say was his other best performance, I would say. And then, he came into relief, right before the All-Star break and played well against the Devils. But it was the Devils. I mean, they're not that great of a team. But when you put up a solid performance, stop 28-31 against the Carolina Hurricanes, who are a really, really good team. Like, this is a Stanley Cup contender, and you're able to come away with a victory against them, made some really big stops, made that one stop on Aho and made a couple of other big ones. And like you said, the biggest thing that you need in a goaltender is to make those key saves at the right time. And I think that's really what we saw happen here. Saw a couple of really nice defensive plays made as well to help him out. I think it was it Sandine on a backdoor kind of intercepted that pass and quickly got it out of harm's way with I want to say might have been Nino Niederreiter in there again, and then another time with Liljegren breaking up that pass as well, where there was an almost backdoor tap in available for the Carolina Hurricanes. So he played well. He got some help from the defense a little bit. But overall, I thought it was a really good game from Toronto defensively. They played pretty good. They didn't give up too much. It was pretty, to be honest, with two juggernaut teams in Carolina and Toronto, it was somewhat like low event. The pace wasn't as good as you would hope. It picked up at times, but for the most part, it wasn't amazing. But we got to also kind of give a little bit of a hat tip to Freddie Andersen, who I thought also played really good tonight. Took him to overtime. Early on, I was like, this guy is on one. He looked like he was going to have a night, and then Matthews. Well, I guess Matthews got credited for that goal. That it
Yeah.
looked like it was Nylander at first, but then he scores that one. Then a minute later, they end up scoring an overtime goal, which is a really nice set play there. And then it was like, okay, Freddie's no longer unstoppable. And this is what we know about Freddie Andersen, right? Like he looks really good, and then he allows that first one, and it's kind of an avalanche after that. He loses a little bit of confidence, and that's kind of what happened tonight. But he was pretty good too. I would say this was. I came into the game thinking it was going to be a solid goaltender duo, and I think that's what we got in Freddie Anderson and Petr Mrazek. I think That's basically what we got today.
Yeah, and I felt like, like the Leafs got, fortunate that the power play was clicking, especially against the top penalty kill in the league, like literally number one in the league. So I think that's a good boost of confidence there. But I like the approach of getting traffic in front of the net. That's how they got, the first goal of the game, and that's how they won it in overtime. They got into Freddie's grill. I think on the broadcast they show that Freddie has really struggled with those, chances right in front of the net, those rebounds. We've seen it. We've seen it during his time with the Leafs, and then the Auston Matthews goal, the second goal, the one we saw him score, was one of those where you can't really fault Freddie on because not many goalies are stopping a shot like that,
It was
but
a nice play.
yeah, it was such a great play. Just like that top line is feeling it again. That's so dangerous.
Mhm.
But yeah, I felt like the goaltenders. That's where I thought the edge was going to be at first for Carolina. Was I thought with the way Andersen was playing and Mrazek was going to have to outshine and outduel him, and he did. Fortunately for Leafs, he did.
Yeah, absolutely. Why don't we get to our 3 stars of the game? Why don't you start with your third star for tonight in the Leafs 4-3 overtime victory over the Hurricanes?
I'm gonna give Freddie Anderson the third star. I thought, he especially early on, like I thought the Leafs were in trouble when Freddie was getting dialed in, and I thought they weren't. They just didn't look good at all, and they weren't getting many chances, and Freddie was stopping a lot of the good ones, especially on the power play. I don't fault him for a lot of the goals that went on him, especially like the Marner one that tied it late. Like I don't know why you're leaving Mitch Marner alone in front of the net. But I thought Anderson gave Carolina every chance to win that game, especially when they were down, and he gave them a chance to come back. So I'll give Freddie the third star.
I'm giving it to Morgan Riley. Finished the night with a couple of assists, played well in all 3 zones. Was a pivotal part in the game winner. The play that he made to kind of stick handle around the defender and make sure to get a shot on net to kind of create that rebound opportunity for Mitch Marner. And also the set play that they made with Auston Matthews with him Marner. That was just a really really solid play. Like literally just rode up perfection, just exactly how they drew it up, and it was great. And he was a big part of that. And then also, like he stuck up for John Tavares when he got ran from behind a little bit there, and I like to see that. You don't see much, much rough stuff from the Maple Leafs these days. Also, Wayne Simmons, love to see him drop the mitts. I was thinking about it when we saw that fight go down. When was the last time that you saw the Leafs fight?
I was thinking that was literally the thing I
I'm
saw.
like, I forgot though. Yeah, they're allowed to fight in this league. That's right. Yes, yes, they are. It's been so long. And then tonight, you see Wayne Simmons just finally drop the mitts and away they went. I was kind of surprised too because it was like 1-0 Carolina. I'm surprised that Carolina decided to go on Brendan Smith. It seemed like it was a really weird fight though. I guess this is an aside, but super bizarre how they both were like, "Are we gonna fight? Like, what's going on here?"
Yeah, that
At
that that
one
was a weird.
point, right at one point, I actually thought the refs were gonna be like, "Okay, guys, I guess you don't want to go." When they both started like looking up into the air, and then they ended up having a decent tilt actually. Um, but yeah, I thought that the physicality, or at least sticking up for your teammates, I thought Leafs did a really good job of that tonight. All right, your second star of the game.
Second star, I'm going to give it to Auston Matthews. When the Leafs looked like they were in a bit of a rut, he got them going with the first goal. Although I give credit to Nylander and Tavares and just that whole power play unit, they did well there. And then second goal was just great play. I mean, I know Riley pretty much did most of the work to set it up, but I mean, Auston Matthews executed the shot perfectly, and depending on the injury, but like he's climbing up that scoring ladder. We were talking about that.
Yeah.
He's right there. Chris Kreider, he's got him in the rear view, so hopefully he's not at long. But I mean, that's this is the type of game you expect from Auston Matthews more so now, and that's a good thing if you're a Leafs fan.
Yeah, I had him as my second star of the game as well. Had a couple of goals, 30 and 31st on the year. It's now 6 straight years that he's hit 30. 7 shots tonight. He was just kind of all over the place. Again, dominant in all 3 zones. 13 faceoff wins as well. You talk about winning faceoffs is so key. And the way that the Maple Leafs, this is now the third game in a row where they've scored off of a set faceoff play. right? Like it's just something that they're really, really good at executing, and it's because the team is so skilled and they can actually do this. Like first it was Michael Bunting who scored on a nice set play, and then Marner scored on a set play the other night, and now you got Auston Matthews on a nice set play. So it's not only it's like the same thing, they're doing it in multiple different ways. They've got a lot of different ways and creativeness to try and do it and score, and so obviously winning draws is step one to completing those plays. And Auston Matthews, 13 faceoff wins tonight. As a team, they won 54% of the faceoffs, so they won in the dots. And typically when you do that, you can win a game. I think we both probably had the same first star of the night, and that is one Mitchell Marner. Ended with 2 goals, 3 shots, or 2 goals, 3 points on the night, including the game tire and the game winner to give the Leafs the victory. So Mitch Marner clearly getting the first star of the game here. And if you bet Mitch Marner to score, you would have won plus 240. That was what it was. Plus 240 to score a goal tonight. And where could you have got that? You could have got that on betonline.net. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. As football continues its march through the playoffs, right to the big game in a couple of weeks, betonline.net remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just football. BetOnline has up-to-the-minute information on pro and college hoops, NHL, boxing, UFC, along with live real-time updates of current games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the new amazing offers available for the 2022 season. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. Yeah, welcome back into Locked On Leafs. Mike DiStefano here. The now a co-host of the show, my other co-host Dave Morassutti, joining us now. He'll be with us the rest of the way. He's official. Boom, was a two-man show from now on. We're just talking about the Leafs with their 4-3 overtime victory over the Carolina Hurricanes last night. 6 wins in a row. They keep kind of moving up the standings a little bit, or at least the points. They got a little ways to go before they can stake claim to the division spot or anything like that. But really, really solid game out of the Maple Leafs. It was a nice response from their game earlier in the year. I like what we saw from them, and they got a couple of days off. So hopefully Auston Matthews can regroup and be good to go on Thursday when they're back in action. So what I want to do for the next 7 or 8 minutes or so of this podcast is I want to talk about the NHL All-Star Game, Dave, and just get your thoughts on just what you thought of the weekend in general, kind of the highlights, the cool stuff you saw, and just how can they make it better? Because when I look at the All-Star Game, I'm really not impressed like at all. Like there may have been 4 minutes of the entire 6-7 hours worth of All-Star coverage that I was impressed by. Like 4 minutes of a 7-hour show makes me want to watch it. The rest, I really could care less. And the players showed the same. Like
I was just about to say, Connor McDavid looked like literally you are in Vegas at the All-Star Game, and you look like you would rather be anywhere else.
you look like you'd rather be in Alaska, in Alaska, literally in Alaska, backpacking, in like sleeping in igloos. I swear that's what it seemed like to me for Connor McDavid, because he could not have cared any less about being there. Yeah, there's just a bunch of things that really I felt that a couple of events just didn't hit for me. The Bellagio one didn't really hit. I just even the blackjack one didn't like. I felt it was too easy. Like they're just picking their spots wherever they wanted to go, and the only reason why Joe Pavelski won is because he got to shoot first. And it wasn't even like a fair flip of the coin to see. It was just like, oh, Joe, you can go first. He basically won.
Yeah, seniority won in that case.
Right, and which is fine. Like, I mean, Joe Pavelski's a terrific player, one of the more underrated guys. Like the dude's having an unbelievable season at 38 years old. But I think the one that a lot of people are going to take away from this All-Star game is it's a bittersweet moment. It's the Trevor Zegras dodgeball breakaway challenge shootout goal where he was blindfolded, literally skating blindfolded, made some sweet moves with the puck, did it like a 360 turn, and somehow got it into the net while having dodgeballs thrown at him. And the fact that did not win the breakout The breakaway challenge is a travesty, Dave. Absolute travesty. They end up giving it to the hometown kid, Alex Petrangelo. And it didn't matter what they did. Petrangelo was going to win that thing. What's the point? What's the point?
That's what really irked me. That's actually controversial if you really think about it. Because look, Jon Hamm
People are
is
betting on this stuff.
that and you know what, that was a part of it that
This
I
stuff.
did feel so bad for. I saw people were trying to lay down bets too, and they weren't getting through, or they were getting pulled back, like they weren't able to complete the bets. But yeah, like I'm sorry, the whole thing about trying, everyone was talking about that Zegras goal. Everybody. It was the one thing that everyone got excited about, and we're almost like, okay, yeah, you can do these skills things. We'll allow it. Like fans were into it, and then what happens? You ruin it because you want to give the Golden Knights player, and Jon Hamm being a St. Louis fan,
Right.
obviously gonna
Petrangelo's super fan. Yeah.
like that was a bit ridiculous in my opinion. I get the whole guest judge thing. You want to bring a little bit of excitement for those who are in attendance to get the celebrities there, but I'm sorry if you're trying to tell people that Travis Zegras' goal wasn't the best goal based on the judges' votes, like that is absolutely ridiculous. Because I
I don't think, but Petrangelo didn't even score. Didn't
like
it go over the net?
I'm pretty sure it did. Like no one was really even like paying attention at that point because everyone thought Travis Zegras had won it.
Right, right. Jack Hughes the funny part is Jack Hughes actually was in the driver's seat because somehow he got a better score than Trevor Zegras. I still don't know how that happened. I mean, how that guy didn't get tens across the board is asinine to me. But actually, Jack Hughes, which I liked it, his little magician thing. He had a mini
Yeah,
Jack Hughes, and they both scored and tossed the stick into the stands. I did appreciate it, but to me,
that was the
Zegras,
showmanship one. That
yeah.
was
But you know how I think like this is what that showed me though. Like Zegras didn't even make the All-Star team. He didn't make the All-Star game. But they made an exception because they know that this guy's a needle mover. He's super creative and he would do something like this. They need to do more. They need to have more of this.
yeah.
Like have the skills competition in the All-Star game kind of be not separate, but not just filled with the All-Star guys, because you even see this in the NBA. You'll have the best dunkers go to the All-Star game. They're not playing in the game, but
No,
they're going to be in the dunk competition. You'll have the best three-point specialist be in the three-point show, but they're not in the game. Why can't you do that at the NHL All-Star game?
that was gonna be my like that. That's totally right because then you're not worrying about, oh, we got to get every team participant, having a participant. You can easily figure that out by having, if a player doesn't make it through the All Star ballot, hey, if he's good enough to do one of the skills, have him come for the skills. You can have Zdeno Chara and well, I mean, if Shea Weber wasn't injured right now, you could have had Shea Weber and Zdeno Chara just
Apparently, they asked Chara, and he said no. That's what I heard. I heard that they asked if he wanted to come out and do harder shot, and he said no. I'll take the week off and rest my body.
and that makes. I mean, you give them the option. I think this is the NHL really needs to. The biggest problem I think with All Star Week is you don't get the same enthusiasm from the players. Remember when they were doing the player drafts and Phil Kessel was picked last?
I don't know why
Like,
they went away from that because that was the
I think
most.
part of the problem was a lot of the players were clearly not sober when that was happening. Like they were, and like it was it made it so like, oh, Phil Kessel got picked last, and like it made. I think they wanted to avoid scenarios like that.
You got a free car. What the hell are you complaining about?
I mean, I think the best part was when Ovechkin was trying to get picked last, so he'd
Yeah,
get.
he's like, no, don't pick me. No, no, I'm not gonna play for your team. No, don't pick me. I want a free car. No.
Well, he didn't want the car. He wanted to give it to someone. I remember that. That was probably one of the like
Right.
you want a bit of the you want. I think it really comes down to is like for those things, get the players who really want to participate and be creative and make a show out of it because even for the people in the arena and those watching like they want it. They want to see something spectacular. And I mean the game itself, man, like the 3-on-3 at least is 3-on-3 because if they did 5-on-5, that'd be even worse because players are not really trying. Like,
They don't care. There's no
they're not,
backchecking. There's no defense. There's until the final 2 minutes of like the $1 million game. The final 2 minutes, you did see a little bit of shot blocking, stick
yeah.
checking. You did see some guys start to really get going, but up until that point, it was like no one cared.
Maybe Gary needs to tell the players, hey, we'll lower your escrow if you guys actually like try a little bit harder in
No,
the All-Star game.
imagine that. That'd be funny. I
Well,
don't
is
know, like, they gotta do something to make it better. I don't have the answer. I think the draft would be something that they can incorporate to make it better. Because like, I
well,
remember we were in high school when that was going on. Like, I remember
yeah,
we're the same age, so I remember being in high school, and me and my buddies, like, quite literally like had a party, like a draft party. I thought it was fun, had buddies come over. We ordered some pizza and wings, and we just kind of chilled, watched the draft. Then we like played video games, NHL afterwards, and it was a fun little night. And then woke up the next day and were able to watch the All-Star game in the afternoon or the skills competition in the afternoon. Like it was a fun little event. And then now they don't have that, and I could care less to watch any of this stuff. I don't know. It's because I'm older. I guess it could be the reason, and I just appreciate real hockey a little bit more. Um, Canada up 1-0. By the way, we're recording this while watching the Canada U.S. game, and they're up 1-0. Woo!
go Canada.
Um, but yeah, like, I just think there's got to be a way to make it better, and the only way to do that though is to entice the players to want to go. Like they don't care. They don't care to go. And
Well,
that's the problem. It's because nobody cares. And I don't know if they can I don't know how to fix it. Like, is the problem. I just don't know how. Like, you had the best player in the world, Connor McDavid, who deserves to be there, and he just doesn't want to be. Like Sidney Crosby was like, "Yeah, don't even nominate me
when was
because
the
I
last time Sidney Crosby went to an All-Star game and like was featured? Like
He's
he's
only been
taken
there
off.
like 3 or 4 times in his entire career."
Like Alex Ovechkin doesn't really go that often anymore. He was the star of the show. I remember in Montreal with the whole wearing the Canada,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
the
yeah,
whole
yeah.
Canada get up. Like
Kaprizov's move was kind of funny with
yeah,
the Ovi jersey at the
and shooting right-handed.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
won like that's the thing there, right? Is that I do think you're right. I think it's because the players don't necessarily put the full desire and excitement. Like you get what you put out of like what you put into it. So if the players aren't totally on board and totally into it, then you gotta figure out a way to incentivize them to want to be there. I think in baseball, isn't it that the winner of the All-Star game gets home field advantage in the World
Used
Series?
to be, and I don't know why they changed it, because that was the
Yeah.
only All-Star game worth watching, and then they changed it. It means nothing, and nobody cares anymore.
Yeah.
Like,
Like
it's different because it's not a contact sport, so, you can still throw a pitch, and it's not gonna, like, hurt you, where
yeah.
throwing a hit may damage your body, and you don't wanna do that in a game that means nothing. Um But, like, at the end of the day, I don't know why they changed it also from MLB, but something like that makes sense, right? East versus West, whoever wins gets home ice advantage in the Stanley Cup final. Like, it would make sense. I don't know why they're not gonna do that. I mean, I do know why. It's money purposes, I suppose, but to me, it makes sense. It would make it a lot better, for the players involved, and it would make them wanna go and try and earn home ice. Because odds are, the people who are making an all-star team are on the good teams and are going to have a say in what happens in the playoffs. They're gonna wanna say
Yeah.
in getting home ice in the playoffs. You'll have a guy like Nazem Kadri trying as hard as he can, or Sebastian Aho, or Connor McDavid, should that team ever get into the playoffs and make their way through the Western Conference. But there's got to be a way to fix it. And if you guys have any solutions, I'd love to hear it. Hit us up on Twitter at Locked On Leafs if you have any solutions on how to fix, or leave a comment below here on YouTube. Leave a comment below.
Yeah.
Well,
I want to hear it.
we want to hear it. How would you fix the All Star game? I think the first one is you got to eliminate the fact that you got to have a player from each team. Get rid of it. Just get the best players, right? That's just get the best players who want to be there, I guess, and then start from there. Like,
I think you're totally right on that. Like don't make it so that Nazem Kadri gets there because somebody has to pull out with an injury.
Dude's first or second in points per 60, and
He's
he didn't
having
make the
an
All-Star
incredible
game?
season.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. Ridiculous. Didn't make it because, no offense, but because Clayton Keller had to be the representative for the Arizona Coyotes.
Nick
You know,
Suzuki had to be there for the Habs. Like,
yeah, he's
really?
having a brutal season, and he makes it there over Marner, over Nylander. You could toss Braden Point in. Like, there's a bunch of Marchand. Like, there were so many guys who could have made it in over those players. Some of the guys who were there. I'm still not sure why Cam Talbot was there. Like, he had like a 3.00 goals against when he was voted in. Didn't play for 6 weeks this year already. Was injured for a while. Still not sure how the heck he ended up making it in over like Connor Hellebuck and some other guys,
Like,
but
you have Kaprizov, who's gonna be the representative of the
right. So it's not only like that's what I mean. It's not like they had to have a Minnesota representative because they already had one.
Yeah, like that. I think that's another thing that has to go. Like that's another thing that has to really like. I think fan voting needs to like fans should want to have more of a say on the players going because I remember like I'll bring in baseball into this. It means a lot when Blue Jays players get there because they campaign hard. It's the same thing for the NBA.
Let's look at Fred VanVleet.
Yeah,
Exactly what we're seeing here in Toronto, right? It was Fred VanVleet. Everybody was voting. Everyone was campaigning. He didn't get the fan vote to be a starter, but he did end up earning the spot from his fellow teammates or from his
the
uh,
coaches and everything. Yeah,
coaches and players within the NBA. I think it's the coaches, right, in the
yeah, the
NBA
coaches
who
pick.
vote on the reserves. And maybe
Yeah,
that should be the way that it is in the NHL. Like the starters, that should be the fan vote, maybe. Although we've done it before, and that's where we get guys like Zemgus
I
Girgensons
was
and
gonna
stuff.
say, yeah, maybe there was like a John Scott incident
But
2.0.
but anyways, it's usually only like one guy. But anyway, like you end up getting the players who deserve to be there, and the guys that the fans want to see. I guess it's not even the guys that deserve to be there, but the ones that the fans want to see. And isn't that the whole point?
Exactly.
Right? Like, isn't that the whole point of it? So I think there should be a little bit more fan say like there used to be. I think you should put it back to the best players get in there. Don't need to have a representative from every team. It also is devaluing what being an all-star is all about. Like it's like,
There's
oh, he's a two-time
bonuses linked
all-star.
to this stuff.
Like yeah, it's like he was a two-time all-star. It's like, eh.
It name doesn't mean as much anymore as when it did when Gretzky,
It doesn't.
Howe, even those guys one got in there. It doesn't
Like
mean the same.
yeah, Eberle was an all-star. What is that like? Leo Komarov was an all-star.
Oh my
Like
god, don't even remind me of that.
right,
I'll never
right.
forget
Like
that.
that's what I mean. Like it totally devalues what being an all-star is all about, and that's really unfortunate. Because in the past it was like, oh yeah, 8-time all-star, blah, blah, and it meant something. Doesn't mean much anymore. It just means that it could literally mean that you're the best player on the worst team. I don't think that's really a good thing. I
I
just
don't
don't.
think so either.
I don't. Anyways, we gotta wrap this puppy up, Dave. Tomorrow, I'm really excited. I think we should get into this conversation about what Sheldon Keefe should do with the goaltending situation. Because you've got Jack Campbell, who kind of sputtered a little bit going into the break, had a really solid performance against Jersey on night 2 of the back-to-back, his final start. But before that, was not playing well. And then you've got Petr Mrazek, who's now got 4 wins in a row, just coming off his best game of the year, beating one of the best teams in the league in the Carolina Hurricanes. I think we got to have a conversation about what Sheldon Keefe should or might do going forward when it comes to handling the goaltending situation here in Toronto. But that's for tomorrow's show. So make sure that you subscribe to Locked On Leafs and get that show tomorrow and each and every day. Again, it's a daily podcast. You can get it for free wherever you get your podcasts, and also subscribe now on YouTube, where we'll be putting up the video versions of the show. And we're not the prettiest dudes, but I like to think that we got some decent talking points here. So maybe you can go and check it out as Dave strokes his beard, which
Speak
is in
for
desperate
yourself,
need
man.
of, it's
Speak
in
for
desperate need
yourself.
of primal origin oils. I can tell you that, buddy. I only say that because I love you. That's going to do it for us here today on the podcast, though. To thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all podcasting platforms for free and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow the show at Locked On Leafs and follow Dave at D_Morassutti. Dave and I, will be back with another episode tomorrow. But until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.